watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Welcome to the Eternal Tournament Series. This is Season 6, Week 2. It's the last season before the end-of-year championship, which has a $3,000 prize pool, and first takes, $1,000. Not a bad little chunk of change. And I'm, of course, Chibikawaii, a.k.a. Mark. And with me in the booth today, I have Mr. Pojo. Pojo, say hello.
Hey. Welcome, folks. We have a pretty exciting match up for you today. Our opener is going to be Man5iac versus hulkbuster, Praxis Forge versus 4F Jank on Man5iac's side. So should be really interesting. There's a lot of unusual things going on in both of these decks. So
yes.
eager to get to it.
Yes, there are. I was watching. So hulkbuster, notably, I like the 4 workshop forge, just hardcore into the whole warp. I was spectating a game of his a little earlier. He had 3 workshops in play. Unfortunately, did not get him anywhere in that game, but should be pretty interesting. I'm a little worried about Man5iac's, influence base. What are your thoughts?
As far as like the seats are looking, he looks like he has some of it sort of figured out. He's running a 24 different seats. It looks like. Is this correct? No. It's actually 12 and 12, which is 24. So yeah, so a few here, but I am miscounting. It's 18 seats, and then from there, like a little bit of everything. That'll work for him if he wants to get a decent amount of influence in every particular category. Since he's not running anything with higher than doubles, with the exception of a Zindil's Gift, it's pretty likely he'll be able to cast a lot of his early stuff. He's going to have a harder time casting cards like Inquisitor, Mokto, and Gift, of course. So. And it can delay your harsh rolls if your base is a little bit tricky on trying to get those green influence. So can be interesting. I definitely played it with decks like this all the time, so it's a lot of fun to do. The main thing that really helps is Find the Way. He's only running one of those, though. So I think with the 3 Vara's favors, he's going to be able to maybe secure some Shadow. But I would probably up the Find the Ways a little bit. We'll see how it works. It should be interesting.
Yeah, so with that, I think we're going to go ahead and just jump straight to the game. And so we should be starting here soon. But just first glance, who do you think's got the leg up here?
hulkbuster's deck seems a little bit more straight reliable in terms of putting out like a lot of dense threats. And Heart of the Vault is traditionally kind of a control killer. It provides so much card advantage that it tends to be, and so like diverse of a threat, that it tends to be pretty hard to answer if your answers are very widespread, as Man5iacs are. So I think that hulkbuster probably can push through those harsh rules, but if he gets into a bad situation with his workshop forges and he doesn't quite get the warp train going, there are many ways in which Man5iac can steal this game.
For sure.
In addition, like Man5iac, if he can land those Mystic Ascendants, those are significant card advantage for him. The longer he can keep those alive, the more devastating they get. If one of them lasts through an Obliterate, then there aren't that many things that Praxis decks can do about units that have more than 6 health. So it's going to be a little bit interesting. Right now, each player is just playing draw go. Amber Acolyte giving hulkbuster the necessary power that he needs and securing that sort of even curve. Man5iac just playing out his cards and getting the draws that he needs to sort of get set up into his late game.
Now we have a 13-turn clock, so we're doing things. I have to imagine we're going to see the Amber Acolyte come down again next turn, probably followed by a Pouncing Drake for hulkbuster the turn after. Or maybe the Infuser.
I would suspect the Waystone Infuser just because it's generally the value card, and it also tends to match up pretty well against most of the cards that Man5iac is running. Man5iac's not running Suffocates. His only major removal spell that actually deals with Waystone Infuser is Slay, and hulkbuster can really sort of like start if he wants to. Mokto early is certainly a pressure play. hulkbuster does not have flyers that really answer that very well. And despite seeing the Heart of the Vault on his deck, he actually opts for the Waystone Infuser. So
well, he wouldn't have been able to cast it. He's only at 5 power. Yeah.
It's interesting primarily because like
so
you're to get the free power off the top.
You're not getting a free look. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so he gets the seat, and now he can play Workshop Forge straight off the top, which is a reasonable amount of value that gets him started on some potential just blowout plays. Man5iac is not attacking with Mokto, which means he's not providing enough pressure for hulkbuster to really feel threatened, and from here he can really start to just try and pull things out. But we have a Celestial Omen, and here's one thing that hulkbusters might have a problem with, which is that Man5iac is at 3 Shadow Influence, so he picks out Nazindil's Gift most likely here, and hulkbuster's playing from the top of his deck at this point, or not. Man5iac doesn't appear to have the 7th power yet, so
it's still fine play. I mean, like, hulkbuster now knows that they need to he needs to empty his hand as soon as possible, so that'll be quite interesting. Yeah, and I guess I was yes, we'll see. I feel like I would have been attacking with this Mokto, especially before I had that Staff of Stories in play, because hulkbuster should be at 15 here realistically. I can take a look. I'm playing the control deck. I'm at 24 life. It's plenty of life, especially against a Praxis deck. I can take a few hits. I would have been fine dropping down to like 15.
Yeah, we can see the Staff of Stories here. It's kind of a clever play, except that hulkbuster is pretty much guaranteed to have like a bunch of different cards here that actually help him. He torches out the Mokto, but with Heart of the Vault as the obvious answer to Staff, there's also, of course, Torch, there's Shatterglass Mage. There's a ton of good answers for Staff of Stories in this deck, and it's probably not going to be a card that Man5iac's going to want to run back.
No, not at all. And important to note, hulkbuster has no Purifies in the main board, so there's really no great way.
Yeah, he's not threatened by
hulkbuster to answer that Mokto.
Yeah, he's not threatened by the Gift, of course, because of the Shatterglass Mage. Just takes 8 here and feels pretty fine about it. Without the Gift, I think Man5iac's actually in quite a bit of trouble. I think he really didn't want hulkbuster to have that Shatterglass Mage on play. But Eye of Winter gives him a little bit of a start. And yeah, we're starting to see some of the problems here with the 4F jank. He's basically just got a lot of really relic-based answers, and the Praxis deck just has good, simple responses to that in the form of Shatterglass Mage.
Ooh. Yeah, and there's a Xenon Obelisk. That's going to pump the team quite a bit starting the next turn. And actually, is that just... well, no, this Mokto is going to prevent it from being lethal. However, still not going to be doing great things.
Yeah, we haven't seen a harsh roll out of Man5iac yet, so it's reasonable to expect that he might have one at this point. If he doesn't, he can try some other things. And the main problem with 4 harsh roll is that it just doesn't really measure up well against the Heart of the Vault style deck, where you are playing a card and getting essentially another 2. So you very rarely run out of steam as a result of a harsh roll. And combined with cards like Xenon Obelisk, which tend to make even your single threats very, very difficult, it is pretty hard for Man5iac to come out of the back foot from this.
Yeah, I agree. So now we're there's a Shatterglass Mage to answer that Eye of Winter. Yeah. All right. I have to imagine we're going to see this, unless Man5iac's got another harsh roll, we're going to see this game come to a close.
Yep, it's looking pretty bad for Man5iac at this point, but Mokto coming back again, pretty decent luck there. Not super good for him, since all he really needs to do this turn is harsh roll, so putting Mokto back on the top 10 doesn't really help him at all. But he doesn't have the harsh roll, and he might be able to generate some sort of useful block.
Ooh, there we go. All right.
Yeah, that is harsh roll number 2. So there's 2 left in his deck. He's got another pair of really big threats to answer. And if he can generate some Slays or he doesn't have Vanquishes, but Island's Choice might do it.
Banish doesn't do anything here.
Yeah. He unfortunately he isn't facing down that many units that are below 4, so the Banishes are particularly unhelpful, although he can use them to crack the Xenon Obelisk, which is a pretty useful way to reduce the strength of the threats that Man5iac is playing, or threats that hulkbuster is playing. So with the Slay on the 7/7...
Well, never mind. Doesn't matter. Torch off the top is going to seal that up.
Yep. Combined with Heart of the Vault's 2 burn, it's overkill. So Waystone Infuser comes out. Temple Scribe gets to draw a little bit, and we just keep playing cards here. hulkbuster plays a few more, adding insult to injury, just
It's
attacking.
like the BM is real. But I don't know. Like I'm also fine with that. I have 2 forges in play. I'm gonna get my value. I'm gonna get my value off of the 2 forges. Congratulations to hulkbuster. They're taking game 1 down against Man5iac.
We're going to see players go into sideboards now. Hopefully Man5iac can figure out some ways to orient his deck a little bit better against the Praxis style. It is a tough matchup to beat for control decks. It's just a very good mid-range deck against control in particular. So it's going to be interesting to see what he comes up with and what it is that he's going to be swapping in.
So, yeah, I wonder if you trim on the banishes, and then I actually, just because hulkbuster can get a little aggressive, I don't mind the lightning storms. It clears up the entire bottom half of hulkbuster's deck.
Yeah, Lightning Storm can sweep out a lot of threats that you would otherwise be forced to harsh rule. Banish is still kind of necessary for Xenon Obelisk, but maybe not.
Sure. I don't think all 4 is what I was saying. Yeah.
I think the key card that Man5iac's sideboard does not look particularly well oriented against this deck, but the key cards that he can bring in are Rain of Frogs, which is just a really, really good hit if you can hit Heart of the Vault with it. Without Heart of the Vault, Praxis decks tend to just sort of crumble a little bit. They don't have enough value otherwise. That card is sort of making up the sole amount of their big hitters in terms of just single drops that are going to really affect the course of the game. You can definitely get warp trains going still, but if you get Rain of Frogs on the Heart of the Vault, that's a big step towards taking that deck apart.
Yeah, it seems so niche though. But as you said, Man5iac's going to have a lot of stuff that he can potentially trim and or just completely cut. So Rain of Frogs is probably better than some of the other things that they have in the deck.
You also have Pass, which is a card that tends to defend itself well against the burn spells and also blocks all of the big stuff.
Well, that's what it was.
Reasonable tempo play.
Yeah. Well, and I was looking hulkbuster actually doesn't have a ton of burn. Looking at this, because I was looking at the backlash and the protect, but I don't know how much we've got torches and we've got
hip shots.
Yeah, we got hip shots, and then we have the purifies in the board, which might come in to answer the Mocto.
Could be, as well as, of course, Heart of the Vault for the 2 damage burn there. Basically, there's a lot of way to clear little small units off of the board, like Desert Marshal, but not that many to clear cards like Seraph or Mocto. So on hulkbuster's side, we might see Purifies coming in. We might see cards like Flame Blast. Sandstorm Titan's certainly fine against the Eye of Winter stun strategy, so that might potentially be something that comes in. It's kind of interesting to see that Sandstorm Titan is not actually in the main board here. The Shatterglass Mages could go up, but I think hulkbuster's in a pretty strong position, so he doesn't need to change his deck strategy around too much in order to get an advantage. He can swap in some new stuff if he wants to, but he seems to be in pretty good shape against this particular match.
All right, it looks like our players are good to go again. Looks like they're resolving their mulligans. So we'll be having this match for you real quick. Oh, so it looks like Archive Curator came in.
Yep, Archive Curator is a reasonable response to that Inquisitor Mocto, of course, if he wants that to stop sticking around for any amount of time.
As well as the Mystic Ascendants as well.
Yeah, and a little flyer that can help out against Mystic Ascendant is probably a really good idea. He's also run in the Purifies, so looks like he's definitely looking to shut down Mystic Ascendant, shut down Mocto, shut down any of the units that are going to give Man5iac a huge advantage.
To be fair, as soon as hulkbuster does that, though, Man5iac doesn't really have too many threats. Assuming that all 6 of his silences came in, that answers a good chunk of Man5iac's threats, because you've got Seraph, you've got Mocto, and you've got Ascendant.
Yep, and combined with that, the relic strategy really isn't working very well for Man5iac, so he doesn't have any major huge spell count stuff to sort of deal with hulkbuster's deck. I think he's in a lot of trouble here. Blink Wolf into Obelisk means that he might be forced to run a harsh rule out fairly early, especially if he didn't side in those lightning storms or draw into those lightning storms. So he's going to have a tricky time of it, and it's going to be a little bit hard to see whether or not he can pick this up.
Yeah, and I have to imagine we're going to see this Amber Monument being played by hulkbuster the next turns. That way, this Pouncing Drake will be able to be played on turn 6. Yeah.
Yep, it also allows him to play out Workshop Forge, which is a good card to develop early if you can get it. I'm not sure he really wants to play Pouncing Drake beyond like other relics, since they just give him bigger threats.
Yeah, I mean, unless there was a reason to bait out a Harsh Rule for some reason, but no, I would agree. I mean, yeah, I guess with Obelisk on though, his clock's a little slower. Ooh,
yep,
Archive Curator.
Yeah, the Banish being left in early, hulkbuster just trying to pressure out Man5iac as much as possible, force as much out of him as he can. We do see a Rain of Frogs, which is a little bit early, but does get the Workshop Forge at least. That can shut down sort of the overall train that hulkbuster can run in the late game. But yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to be as valuable to him as possibly hitting a Heart of the Vault, which was really sort of what he needed here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Do you go? I'm almost tempted just to go for the greed. Just make them have the Harsh Rule, but they're forced to Harsh Rule here anyway. And then Pouncing Drake is still a 2-turn clock, even if they do Harsh Rule. So I agree with hulkbuster leaving back that Pouncing Drake.
Yeah, we do see Avara's Favor killing the Blink Wolf. That's going to give Man5iac a little bit more life and a little bit more time to deal with the rest of the threats. He doesn't have to play his Harsh Rule if he doesn't want to. He can potentially like throw some other removal on the board, although certainly these units are kind of small and maybe not quite worth that. But yep, he does end up using a Slay on the other Blink Wolf. That puts him on a 5-turn clock. So Pouncing Drake might be forced to come out at this point, although the frogs are not helping that much.
No, but it is an interesting... the fact that Man5iac was willing to burn that many cards, though, to answer some of those smaller threats, kind of gives away that he may not have that Harsh Rule in hand.
He certainly didn't want to use it early, and we do see a second Slay, and there's the 4/4 down. So at this point, Man5iac's taken damage from just a lot of small units. The frogs, of course, just continuing to spread out. Now they actually represent lethal. Kind of a bad series of luck for Man5iac.
It's almost if it was raining frogs.
Yeah, we see the Banish there on the Archive Curator. Now Man5iac is on 2 turns, although, of course, there's still Hip Shot, there's still Heart of the Vault, there's still Torch, so taking any more damage at this point is very, very scary. Even being below 6 against Praxis can be very, very tough. And with Mystic Ascendant, he does get to draw some cards. That might potentially give him a little bit of an edge against the deck, although if he hasn't brought in the Lightning Storms, he may not have much to draw to.
And to your point, though, this still allows hulkbuster to get 3 points of damage through, so literally any of the burn that can target face off the top for hulkbuster is going to be lethal here.
Yep, it's a pretty rough deal. If he had managed to pick up an Annihilate or something like that, he would have been in slightly better shape, but from here he's actually dead to units. And my goodness, that's all 4 frogs. Good bit of luck for hulkbuster there. He would have drawn essentially 4 Workshop Forges, and considering how many warp cards he's picked up off the top, Rain of Frogs did end up actually helping him here.
Yes, it did. I don't... So, yeah, Man5iac would need a Harsh Rule here, or a Lightning Storm.
Yeah,
but even
Storm
then,
would clear it out just nicely, but he didn't draw it and didn't draw anything else. So that is 2-0 for hulkbuster. Pretty solid, sound beating, and yeah, we'll see him advancing on a little bit further. And of course, everyone has another chance since it's a 7-round Swiss.
Yeah, so congratulations to hulkbuster, and that is actually going to that's going to do it for this round. We unfortunately have no backup, so we're going to take a little bit of a break here. Pojo, you got anything to say before we step away?
No, I think we're probably good. We saw a deck with a lot of reliability and just general strength against control decks. Do pretty well against control decks. Yeah. So nothing too crazy here. Looking forward to the next round, and I hope that both Man5iac and hulkbuster continue to do well in this tournament. So see you guys later.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. We'll see you guys back in just a few minutes.